Hello, my lovely little gemstones, it's Afira, and welcome back to Fluffuary, a month-long event dedicated to Sanderside ships of all kinds. This is day 22, Choice OT3, and I chose Dukeceition, which is Remus, Deceit, and my OC obsession. The title is Soaking in the Sunlight, and the summary: the dark side of the mind is cold and depressing. The darkness creeps into every corner, sapping the strength and will from those who live there. They aren't welcome in the light, but even so, they sometimes find their own little pocket of happiness. Remus stepped back, brushing his hands off as he surveyed his handiwork and smiled to himself. Everything was perfect. Now he just had to get his boyfriends here without making them suspicious. Which would be a problem because they never came to the imagination with him. He didn't blame them. His normal creations were wild, and he usually only had partial control over what they did. Both Deceit and Obsession didn't appreciate the adrenaline rush of having to run for your life from their own creation. Maybe he could bring them in under the guise of complaining about something his brother had done? Roman had never crossed the line between their sides, but maybe it could be believable? No, that would never work. Ernest would see right through him if he tried to lie to his face. He had to come up with something that was technically true so Ernest wouldn't catch him. Remus sighed, groaning. He was no good at keeping secrets, but he really wanted to surprise his boyfriends with something nice. He had spent an entire week in the imagination working on it, and the only reason he hadn't been caught yet is because by the time he came back out, the other two were tired and didn't ask any questions. But he wouldn't hold up to any kind of questioning. He would just teleport both of them to the spot and skip all the excuses and fluff, but the only way into the imagination was through the doors in either his or Roman's room. And his doorway was a giant hole in the floor that you had to fall into. Why am I so bad at lying? Remus shouted into the air, tangling his fingers in his hair in frustration. He just wanted to do something nice. Why was it so stressful? Remus, what's wrong? Remus jumped at the familiar voice, and he spun around to see both Ernest and Otto standing there, looking around the clearing. You're not supposed to be here yet, Remus shouted, running over to them and trying to shove them out. I'm supposed to come get you and bring you here and surprise you! Why are you here? Otto raised an eyebrow. You've been busy in here all week, and you didn't tell us what you were doing, which is weird for you. Normally you'd tell us every little gory detail, even when we don't necessarily want to hear it, Ernest teased, his eyes brushing past Remus and taking the scene around him. This is impressive. Much different than what you normally go for, Remus. What's the occasion? Remus deflated, pouting as he refused to look at either of them. It was supposed to be a surprise, and you ruined it. Otto put a hand on his shoulder. Aw, come on, Remus. Don't be like that. We are surprised. Like E said, this isn't anything like what you normally do. But I was supposed to come find you. I was supposed to bring you here thinking I was going to show you something else, and then, bam, we were going to be here, and you'd say, wow, it's so romantic, and He crossed his arms, pulling away from Otto's hand. Behind his back, Otto and Ernest shared a worried look. Remus, have you been talking to your brother recently? Remus's shoulders tensed, and he screwed his mouth shut, knowing it didn't matter what he answered at this point. Ernest sighed, coming forward and spinning Remus gently, holding him by the elbows. I'll take that as a yes. Otto came forward as well, wrapping his arms around Remus's waist and setting his chin on his shoulder. Did he tell you all about how to woo us with the perfect picnic date? And more specifically, what not to do? Ernest added. I just wanted to make sure you guys liked it. I'm not good at romantic shit, so I went to the person who is, Remus grumbled. Remus. They both sighed, and Remus felt terrible. He'd ruined their date before he'd even done anything. He was so bad at romance. It was a miracle he'd kept them for this long. If we wanted to be wooed by Roman, don't you think we'd be with Roman? Otto spoke next to his ear, kissing his cheek. Ernest nodded, working Remus's arms apart to intertwine their fingers. Don't misunderstand. We appreciate everything you've done here. This area is beautiful, and I can tell how much work you put into it. Otto nodded. Right, but Remus, we're with you because we love you, and how you do things. To be honest, Roman's brand of romance is way too sweet for me. I think I'd get cavities if I had to deal with it every day. Agreed. He's so predictable in his approach. I would get bored within 2 seconds. Remus looked between both of them, a hesitant smile growing on his face. Are you two serious? Of course we are. Now come on, why don't you show us what you've been working on this whole week? Otto insisted, looking over at the black and green picnic blanket and the big basket sitting on top of the grass. We're sorry for spoiling your surprise, Remus, Ernest apologized, brushing his knuckles down Remus's cheek. The creative side shook his head, now with a full smile beaming from his face as he quickly kissed both of them before grabbing each of their hands and leading them to the blanket. They ate the lunch Remus had packed, which was a treat for the dark side since their side of the mine didn't spawn food in their cupboards like it did for the others. Remus didn't mind that he owed Roman a favor for it, because the smile on his boyfriend's faces were well worth it. After they ate, they laid down on the blanket together, a tangle of limbs with Ernest in the middle as they watched the clouds pass. The sky was dark gray with a tinge of green, and the clouds were pure black, but that didn't seem to faze either of his boyfriends. He started to wonder why he had asked Roman for help in the first place. Aside from the food, there wasn't anything about the date that he couldn't have done on his own. Remus snuggled closer to Ernest, who had fallen asleep in the warmth and the imagination. Across from him, Otto reached for his hand and locked their fingers together, resting on Ernest's chest. "Love you both," Remus mumbled. Otto hummed back, squeezing his hand in return. "I love you too, Rum. Thank you for doing this, even if we did ruin it in the end." Remus shook his head. "No, you made it perfect." Thank you all so much for listening. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to make sure you don't miss the rest of the series. If you like my writing and you want to hear more, you can check out the other videos on my channel, or my AO3 link is in the description if you'd like to read them for yourself. See you next time!